Good afternoon. Welcome to the Wednesday open public meeting of VOCC. We have on the agenda was Public Works, but they called in and didn't really have any updates today. So we have some miscellaneous and I thought I'd put them in orders. I'd like to briefly touch on a letter we approved yesterday. And then I know Kathy, you have a contract thing, and then we'll go with Kaylee. We have some parks thing, if that's okay. The letter yesterday was, it come in and it's for reauthorization of the National Landside Preparedness Reauthorization Act. And we were asked, and you get this, we got this thing at late notice that they wanted a letter from us signed by commissioners. And I don't have a problem with the letter. My only caution is I don't like these last minute things. I like to have a little bit of time. And I know that happens sometimes in Congress when you're having that. I guess all I'm saying is, I'll be very cautious not to have it be a habit.
Yeah, I think that one was out of your control completely and unforeseen. I probably have a little bit, even though I signed it, I have a little trouble just in principle because people build in places that they shouldn't build, and eventually somebody ends up paying for that. The example in the letter was about 100 and some odd homes got destroyed.
Yeah.
Through a slide in the county, and guess who paid for that?
Yeah.
You guys did.
And I share that, and that's one of the trepidations I have with this. Since this has been enacted, have we told the land you can't slide anymore? I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The hubris of man never ceases to amaze me. And basically what it is, all it really is it means we can get taxpayer dollars to help fix it if it happens.
Yeah,
But it probably comes with some rules that I'm not aware of at this point in time that apply to.
I think you can be certain that there are rules, and you can be certain you don't like them.
Yeah. And it always troubles me when the Fed says Calais County, these are rules, and they know nothing about Calais County. And so I guess my only thing is, and number one, I don't think the feds, they can't stop landslides. That's more of a local thing we deal with. So I don't know what good these acts do other than gives them the ability to take it from here and put it over here. And I just don't want to get in a habit. Well, this is last minute. We got to have this done. Otherwise we can't do this. Well,
maybe I'll just elaborate by one egregious example. LAX has the land from basically Sepulveda, I think, to the ocean. And prior to, well, sometime back in the 50s or in the 60s, LAX was still active. It was a big airport. And people built houses under the flight path so they could be along the beach, because Southern California beach property is pretty expensive. Well, then they started to complain about the air traffic noise, as if the air traffic noise was something new. Eventually, the city had to buy all those houses out. And when I say had to buy, is they decided to buy it. I would have just said, hey, you bought it.
yeah, you knew what you had.
Yeah.
So that's just brief commentary on that. I don't ever see, and people probably struggle with this at times, but I don't ever see government as a fix. I mean, they provide us money, but that had to come from someplace else. It's like, to me, when I see that, I look at, okay, I go out on my property, I see this big hole, and I say, I don't like that hole there. I need to fill that in. I know what I'll do. I'll take some dirt from over here. So I dig a hole over here and fill this hole in and say, there, it's fixed. That's the way government works, and it's not fixed. You had to take it from something to do this. It's not like commerce where people have an agreement and they both walk away with some sort of worth that they've gained. So I struggle with any time they start getting involved, but
and was it Sepulveda? It's one of those. It's been a while.
Yeah. Okay. Enough on that. I'm just saying I'll be cautious that if we start seeing these coming like crazy, I'll probably throw up roadblocks. Kathy?
My chair didn't want to move. Kathy Funk Baxter, Finance Director. I just wanted to brief you on a personal services agreement that will be on the consent agenda item next Tuesday. And this is an agreement with the Community Mediation Center, which previously visited with you, I think in August of the past year. And so it is an agreement covers 2 years, 24 and 25, for a dollar amount not to exceed $80,000, which that's $40,000 a year, which is what they've previously this past year received. And they bill monthly, and it's basically a fixed price contract. And then the invoices will go to the Superior Court for processing. And they contain the budget as well for this contract.
Because the mediation they do is generates from Superior Court saying you need some, like renters not getting along, renter landlord, those type
Yeah,
of things.
they have different, most of their cases are family mediation type
Dissolution type thing.
or parent agreements, things like that when they did their presentation. Most of their agreements are that, but the landlord tenant, I believe, is a completely separate activity and it's not covered
So the
under
activity
this.
we're talking about is just the other.
Right.
And we've looked at and approved this. I know we looked at it and
Yeah, we approved it last year.
Right.
we're just getting the contract done.
Right. The first contract, there was a contract, but it covered all 3 years, but it only covered funding for 1 year. So I'm asking for us to do a new contract to cover 24 and 25 with the funding for the two remaining years.
This isn't only the court-ordered arbitration or,
Right.
what's the word I'm looking?
Yes, it's more, people come for
Mediation.
referrals and things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Are they prepared to kind of give us results of what happened this past year that we contracted? Do you know?
I'm sure
Work
that
they've
they
done?
can, when they do their monthly reports, they provide how many referrals, how many open cases, how many closed cases with their monthly invoices. So I'm sure that they can. Back in August, when they came and presented, they had up through August information. So,
Yeah, I think they're happy to present anything
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I don't have any issue with them, but we ask all the time when we spend money, we like to know it's spent right. And so
Yeah.
I'm
and
just,
so, yeah, so I think easily we could put something together based upon all of the invoices they've already prepared for this past year. And has that data.
And then a question about the contract. In the past, I thought it was reimbursement based on an event.
Yeah, it wasn't. I went back and actually reviewed the invoices, the most recent invoices, and it's fixed price. It's
Got it.
just a monthly amount, and the annual amount adds up to $40,000. And that's
And-
what they're requesting.
And this NTE is for 2 years
Yes.
and they
And
could
not to
spend,
exceed $80,000.
and so we will just automatically give them a 24th of 80,000 every month.
Right.
Okay.
With a submittal of an invoice. They do submit an invoice and they do have records for their
it-
cases and things.
And it's got a termination clause for
Yes, it
convenience.
does. Yes,
Thank
it
you.
does.
yeah, I know them and I think they do good work, but I do think because we ask it all the time, they should be prepared to let us know what they've done with the initial 40 and what progress or things they've accomplished.
Okay.
think
I'll be sure that you
that's
have
fair.
it on Tuesday.
Yeah. good.
Okay.
Okay. I know you have this, but I also had a question for you, and we'll get into it on Riverside. I don't know if anybody's talked to you about Riverside yet or not either. Okay,
They have not. Oop,
okay.
They have not. Kaylee McKay, Cowlitz County Auditor's Office. And I've got a few things for the board regarding ARPA today. We do have a request, so I'm going to start out with that. Keenan Harvey is here to join us and give us a little more information on his request. I do believe he provided the board with some information.
Go ahead, Keith.
And we did print out extra copies if anybody needs one. So I'll hand it over to you, if you want to just do a summary of your request and then they can ask questions.
Keenan Harvey with City Council. I'm here to request $100,000 for a park replacement in the city of Kelso. To replace the Lads and Lassie Park, which is located on South Eighth and Elm Street, roughly a block away from the county line in the South Kelso neighborhood. To start, late September of 2021, it was brought up that there was a park in the city of Kelso that was in disrepair. And so we added it to the, and then we discussed the replacement based on some of the ADA accessibility requirements to replace and or repair a park anymore. You have to create ADA elements to that park. So the presentation that I gave to you through Great Northwest Recreation is the invoice, or not invoice, but the proposal that was voted on and accepted by the Kelso City Council. Since then, so that proposal doesn't include any groundwork. Our engineer's estimate was roughly $100,000 of groundwork. But this is a true community proposal and project. We have a private nonprofit that is pledged $100,000 to the project. The city of Kelso will be in for $268,000, and then I have a private contractor which is donating the roughly $100,000 in ground.
So when I add that all up, it's about 500,000.
Roughly using round numbers, I'm projecting the total project cost is gonna come in right at about the $500,000. You know, obviously we're gonna have some incidentals. No, now it is. Okay. Thank you. Obviously there's gonna be some incidentals like tree removal, and staff time, et cetera, but this project is slated to move forward in March. Part of the reason why I'm asking for funding is because the city of Kelso did move forward with allocating $268,000, sorry, the $368,000 less the private nonprofits donation, which would be the.
Is that Rotary?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have to be careful because Rotary has pledged $100,000 to an ADA, a fully ADA accessible park anywhere in the city of Kelso. So they didn't want to be pigeonholed to one location. But the proposal in front of you is what was voted on and approved for Lads and Lassies. So I need to make that distinction, and that's why I don't bring up the nonprofit. I also sit on that board, but I can't speak for that board. So that's why I purposely leave the title of the nonprofit out. But the reason why I'm requesting this funding is because I'm sure Commissioner Dahl has attended a numerous amount of meetings in the city of Kelso and heard time and time again that we have emergency street repairs and emergency road repairs that we need to take care of, including the Hostler Road area in West Vista. So if you guys did make available the $100,000 request that I'm asking for, it would alleviate a huge burden for some of the emergency repairs that we're facing now in the city.
I've been listening to the Hostler Road residents for 2 years.
Yes, and we finally have a resolution for that. We are installing some drainage and working on a proposal to improve the vistas up until Hostler. So that doesn't include the lower Hostler Road, but this, if you do make the funding available, it would provide us some relief with our ARPA funds.
So this has commitment from the city. Nonprofit is willing to get involved and then some volunteer
Yes, and
work all
a
of this.
private business is donating all of the groundwork, which engineer estimate was roughly $100,000.
So I was a little lost. The Rotary contribution is actually not in there.
The Rotary contribution is not included in the Great Northwest Recreation Plan. They have pledged it to the city to help out with an ADA park in the city of Kelso. So the $368,000 does not include that figure, no.
Got it. And one of the things government tends to do is to build something and then maintenance is a significant afterthought. What's the city of Kelso's plan for maintenance?
Yeah, so this is not a new park in the city of Kelso. So our Parks Department, which the city of Kelso is one employee, will be maintaining it as they have been. So the maintenance will be, in my opinion, reduced because we're getting rid of the bark chips and the need for reoccurring layment of bark chips, and we're replacing it with an asphalt and poured over surface, which actually meets the requirements for the American with Disabilities Act. So we're making a significant improvement to the park in addition to reducing the maintenance burden on the city.
Is there a rule of thumb that says how much, if I'm a private investor, I'm going to buy a building, and I know there's a rule of thumb that says in addition to everything, I should put aside something like 10 to 15% a year for a variety of things, including the rebuilding of the building after its lifetime. Do you have anything equivalent?
Not right now. So digging into this full parks project, I'm actually reviewing all of our parks facility maintenance plan. We actually have a parks facility maintenance plan that was put in place in 2018. And that did identify this park to be the second most needed park for repair in the city of Kelso. And that was a document produced in 2018, which was our parks facility maintenance plan. So it did build in small incidental things for the current park. But since we're moving forward with a parks replacement, the city of Kelso is likely going to have to go back and update our 2018 plan. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm trying to. It seems like Kelso had a lot of needs, like the spray park. Is it operational now?
Still waiting on parts.
So there was an estimate, something like $600,000 to recirculate the filter, clean the water. That hasn't taken place, has it?
That is, so we have most of the parts in hand. We're still waiting on the bathroom to be built and some incidental parts for the operations of the park, from my understanding. That's not something that I am well versed on. But we do ask frequent updates, including our last Tuesday meeting from our Public Works manager.
Does Kelso have a sense of priority on their parks? Because there's, in addition, there's a, not the canoe,
The kayak boat launch,
Thank you.
yes. And so that's when we update our parks comprehensive plan, the kayak park will have to be added to that as an additional park. That is a low maintenance, basically a land purchase at this time, just to allow access to the water. We're still going through the permitting, the shoreline permitting on that, but that will be added to our master parks plan. And it's important to note that the majority of the funding, that Kelso set aside $15,000 from our ARPA funds for that project, but the majority of that was funded with the help from the Port of Longview.
thank you.
You know, I think, I don't generally have issues with parks. I think they're benefits to the neighborhoods they serve. I mean, obviously, park doesn't serve the whole community, but there's communities within a community, and I think this probably serves that area. My question is more of a financial one. I think there's a lot of other players in there, so I don't worry too much about that. But we had for Riverside, we had gone out to RCO to fix the basketball courts over there, and we weren't able to get it because we didn't meet, what didn't we meet? It was some oddball thing that,
I don't remember.
yeah. And, and obviously, Riverside, it appears it's the only park in Lexington, and I think that's about $100,000 bill also, and I know they're gonna look for sources. So my question to you is, what kind of sources do we have available still through?
So we actually have the Riverside Park. The board approved a grant match for that park for 200,000. And I believe it had to do with the toilets and things like that out there. So it was a direct qualifier under ARPA. So we did allocate 200,000 out of ARPA funds for the Riverside Park.
Yeah, for the toilets and stuff, but this would be something new.
Yeah, so we would have to use revenue loss. We'd have to use revenue loss for this request as well. We currently have $272,450 available of revenue loss.
Okay. So if we wanted to do both, there's money to do both.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're not counting on anything from the 2.6.
That is still included in there. It is one of our topics for today as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're thinking, Mr. Chairman, that you're okay with this, I'm okay with that.
I am. I just want to make sure that Riverside, no offense to Kelso's Park, but Riverside is pretty big and it serves a big area, and I want to make sure that they're taken care of too.
Is it Sean Rowe that's been working on?
Well, Alyssa came in on a
Oh.
Monday. We've had departments come in and she was talking, just giving us an update. And so then we got into conversation on this basketball because the court is just not usable right at the moment. And we serve a big area over there and they have a lot of people. So we'd like to get that fixed. And she initially had went for RCO funding on that, but it didn't qualify because I wish I could remember the reason. It was some off the ball reason.
Yeah,
And
that,
so our instructions to them and her and Savannah was see if there's something around it that we have available for that. And it sounds like we may.
Yeah, I'll reach out to Alyssa and see if I can get a number and we can discuss and bring it back to the board. We also have the investment earnings on ARPA that we could potentially use for Riverside to assist with that as well.
These are things we can do that have benefit to these local
Mhm.
communities. And
yeah, I like the concept that you're pressing, which is I don't like special interests. Community-wide things are fine, but I would prioritize it, Riverside and Kelso in this case, or the Lads and Lassie Park, and we have enough for both.
yeah. And I know it's city of Kelso, but it's really close to the county. So I'm sure there's county kids that take part in that too. So.
If you look at the map, it's on South 8th and Elm, and then there's Laurel Street and Walnut. The south side of Walnut is all county in the city. So it does serve a pretty big population of the county in South Kelso.
Yeah, I don't look at territorial boundaries. I don't care what side of the street you're on.
Yeah, and it is important to note that this will be the first full ADA accessible park in the area. So right now families are traveling to either Chehalis Centralia for their Nickel Park or Vancouver to meet this
Wow.
kind of need. So it'll create a nice addition to the South Kelso neighborhood.
Because I have family and stuff up in that area, I go up by that park fairly often. It's pretty heavily used. A lot of families coming on there.
And to be blunt, this is
started baseball in that park. Of course,
this
it
is
didn't
a-
look like that back
yeah,
then. but
this is
yeah.
a very small park. So to say that it would attract the same demographic of people as
Probably not.
Nickel Park, probably not, but
I get it, but it is used up there. It's utilized.
Yeah.
I think I remember that in my history book class about that you learned baseball there.
Yeah. played for the Daily Chronicle.
Mhm.
So is that the direction?
Yeah.
You're good with that? Okay.
Yes,
We're
thank
good with
you.
Both those.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Right, we have two more things for the board related to ARPA. The first one is just really quick. So the personal service agreement that we had signed with Teresa Johnson's office, it's been a few weeks ago. I had it on the consent agenda with the board. We used the wrong form. So I am requesting that the board rescind what we signed a couple weeks ago and sign the correct form.
That's the CPA.
Yes, nothing's changing, nothing new. We just used we used the old form instead of the new one.
What makes the form old? I'm very sensitive to age comments.
It's a year old. No, it's a couple years old. We actually use it as an attachment. It's something that we get from Teresa Johnson's office. It goes over her scope of work. And we quickly got it out to the board and,
So who's complaining though?
the
I don't mind,
prosecutor.
I don't mind, by the way, but I find that as we're driven by bureaucracy, we do more stupid things.
So we did have the contract I'm gonna have the board sign for the correct version is the one we signed last time. We just used Teresa Johnson's version as an attachment. So this time we just had you sign Teresa Johnson's version and not ours that the prosecuting attorney prefers. Goes over a little more detail, has some more benefits to the county. So
Thank you.
thank you. And then the last thing I have is City of Woodland. So we still have not heard back from them. We've tried calling a few times now on top of emailing. Our last email communication that we had sent out was undeliverable after the terminations that had happened. So we did try communicating with some new individuals. We got some different names. We still have not heard back. Then the last thing that we had received was some communication about the Exit 21 project possibly not moving forward. So we just wanted to bring it up to the board again. Ask if there's any new direction or new information. And then possibly request the board's permission to send a deadline to Woodland at this point.
I very much appreciate that you're doing this. Some pretty egregious things occurred when the mayorship was changed, and the mayor had the unfortunate, the new mayor had the unfortunate plan to go to Mexico, and that's why he's largely been out of contact with us. He's back. I sent him the copy of the letter you saw that came from our colleague. And the new mayor is a bit horrified because I think it was October of last year, they signed a contract for the engineering on that. And they're on the hook for 2.6. And so if we rescind that right now, it's a little bit dicey. I don't think we're able to do that, but that doesn't mean we don't need some more information. If things aren't going to go, I want to see what kind of termination clause they had, how reasonably we can back out of that. But at the moment, I don't think we can count on pulling that back until we really understand more.
Are you referring to our contract with Woodland or Woodland's contract with the engineer for being able to pull?
Our contract with Woodland incurs a moral and ethical obligation.
So we don't have a contract with Woodland. That's actually what I've been trying to do for almost a year now.
Yeah, and I'm finding that the political infighting over there caused a lot of damage. I'm saying we've got to be above that at the moment. And if Woodland, believing it had that, and the previous administration signed all those contracts, we have to stand behind it to the point of where we can, if we must, extricate ourselves, do so ethically and equitably.
Mhm.
And I don't know where we stand on there.
Yeah.
I think maybe you and I can get together and we can get a hold of the mayor of Woodland and iron some of this out.
Yeah, that would be great.
It's unfathomable that they would not get back with Kaylee and do that, because I've been down their meetings and asked them. And the fact that they never reached out, I think the new mayor will do that for you,
Yeah.
but horrible. Yeah,
So let's make an appointment to have him come here or us go down there, whichever.
Sounds great. I will get in touch with you to get that planned.
And again,
That-
I appreciate you
Yeah.
keeping us surprised. A year is a long time to be incommunicado.
Yeah, I'm good with whatever. I just want to send the money out the door before we lose it, so.
yeah.
And an update on, they are still trying to push to get an extension for ARPA funding. They're gathering more and more information every month to try and send in that request. It hasn't been approved yet, but they are pushing for it.
The deadlines.
Yeah, to be, I believe they're requesting a 2-year extension on the deadlines.
So just off the top of your head, no firm commitment or anything, how much have we made in terms of interest rate on the ARPA money?
It's been, the first year I want to say was roughly 200 to 300,000. This last year, I believe it was around 800 to 900,000.
Okay, so, and that has been plowed back into the general fund?
Yes.
And Kathy says we spent it or it's,
And there's
Okay.
no,
no strings attached under that?
correct. Interest earnings are ours. We keep that fund fully vested, as long as we can. We only pull out the investments as we pay the bills when they come in. So
Yeah.
trying to earn as much as we can off of it.
Yeah, a thing that makes it really strange, that contract I mentioned was signed in October with Woodland. Typically, you put down some earnest money
Mhm.
and you've never paid anything out.
Nope.
So it's
It,
strange.
they've, obviously, I mean, you look at it, you have to say there's been a lot of dysfunction there, because otherwise this would have been taken care of. I don't know whether the way you.
I
play it.
agree with you and I'm glad you're saying it politely. I'm not sure how I would say it.
Yeah, well, you just look at it and obviously that, I don't know how else you could read it.
Just what he said.
Yes.
Yeah. Sounds like Commissioner Mortensen will help you get that ironed out, hopefully.
Sounds great. All right, that's all we had for the board. And Bailey, I'll get you the updated contract for them to sign. Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
But one last thing, shouldn't you have introduced your colleague to the public? I'm just trying to embarrass you, but it's a good thing because,
With us was Camilla Eastman, the chief accountant for the Cowlitz County Auditor's Office.
thank you. Yeah.
well, unless we have miscellaneous, we can recess till 2:30 when we take up the facility district.
Yep.
Okay. We will go into recess. Okay. We will, we'll get going again here. We'll